And so while we're waiting on Dornafa, we'll go ahead and get started, I think. As I was mentioning, the power that's available within our cell phones is something that, I think we all kind of take for granted. And what are some of the challenges that you guys see in implementing the technology solutions that you've developed, as far as do you feel that fishermen are up to task? Are they willing? Are they able? Is it something that takes a lot of training to get them up to speed, or is it something you see that they just take naturally, just like their Facebook accounts or whatever it might be?
Yeah, so to follow on from what you said, look, the technology development has far outpaced our capacity to use it. It's just that bulk of the talent that, for example, countries like India produces and Indonesia produces is used to develop technology for big corporations. So there's a drain of human expertise towards, in a particular direction. Not that it's bad, but you don't find that level of investment or interest in creating technologies for fishermen, for example, or farmers. And I think we are beginning to see that change, and I think when that happens, you will see that it would be possible to solve most of the problems that we have. But getting that funded, getting that going is a huge challenge in itself. And I'm inspired to see quite a few companies taking on that challenge.
Yeah, so, sorry. One of the barriers that we faced, that I've heard a lot from other speakers as well, is the trust in the community, and that the partnerships with a champion in the community, an NGO, a trusted NGO in the community, to roll these apps out is really important, in that the fishers and the fish buyers need that trust to believe in a product. So for me to present something versus one of their trusted community members would be a very different experience. And then in terms of uptake of the technology itself, that has been something we've been trying to solve for over the past, since we started. And that's a lot of the adjustments to the app have been around that, of making it simpler, making it easier to use. We have seen that the newer users, as time has progressed and more people are more comfortable with phones and using apps in other capacities, that it has gotten easier for people, but then we've also adjusted the app to make the app a bit simpler to use. So that has been a challenge for us on both the matching the technology with the capacity of the users, which is a very broad range in the communities that we're working with.
Thank you for that, and apologies as we proceed, and welcome Dorna back to the stage. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, in the back.
Okay, thank you. My name is Sabdo Utomo from National Chung Cheng University. I would like to ask Subham sir, really interesting presentation. I would like to know about the data labeling in your application, because we are working on AI, right? Sometime during the process of labeling, the labeler itself, maybe we give this task to several people, right? It might be some bias in that, right? And then if this bias come to our training process, then our model might be untrusty. So how this process have been done in your application training? And could we trust the labeler capacity to know, oh, this image belong to grade A tuna, this image belong to grade B tuna. Is the labeler know how to assess that? Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. An excellent question. So look, we developed two technologies. What we've shown you is classification technology, where our images are classified. We are also working on grain, requires labeling, right? So that is problematic. So as you must have heard from other presentations, people typically require millions of data to do that. And very often they then outsource it to sweatshops. And then they have huge amount of errors. Then they get more data to solve the problem. It's never going to solve the problem. We do not have sweatshops. We have automated ways of labeling when it comes to individual objects like in grain and so on and so forth. We believe we can do that for fish as well. We have now a video system working that will do a flow that can sit on a conveyor belt. Coming back to the classification thing, which is what I've showed you and what we discussed, I personally think that we should not trust AI. I don't think anybody should trust AI. So here we have a completely different take from possibly most other AI companies. We are a company that delivers human expertise, right? So every app has to be authored by somebody who is responsible for it, whose expertise is recognized, and who has taken the trouble to validate it. So our ability to build thousands of apps cheaply and effectively allows us to do this. So every app will have an author, will be validated by the author, because it is their skill that we are making it available for everybody. So this approach is very different, and I hope it answers your question.
Thank you, sir. That was great. Yeah.
I see another question up front here. Or is there another one in the back? Sorry.
Yeah, in the meantime, this is for Courtney. Have you found that this technology has been able to scale itself? And what I mean by that are users of this app able to educate others within the community that may not receive the initial training? Are they able to have that peer-to-peer learning exchange? Or have you found that at least with earlier models that has been a barrier?
Yeah, thanks. Great question. So with the earlier models, I guess, first of all, our delivery model for the app is through, has in the past is only NGOs. So an NGO would go and work with the community and train fish buyers. And then, yes, those fish buyers would train other fish buyers. In the past, you had to work through the NGO to set yourself up on the app. So that was a huge limitation of the previous version of the app. But in terms of communication across fish buyers, there was a lot of interest, and once one fish buyer started using it and he talked to his friends, then yes, there was that the word of mouth, the training piece of that was not coming from a buyer to buyer, but the excitement and the interest was definitely. And so the way that we previously worked is that then that buyer would go to the NGO and get set up on the app. One of the major changes that we've made to the new version is that now anyone can set themselves on the app. So now if I'm using it and I think it's cool and I tell you, then you can just pull up the app and use it. And so now I feel like this is the hope, is that the spread throughout the community will be much easier now. When it was a barrier, I think that was the biggest barrier previously. The excitement that was there, and one of the barriers has been keeping the interest. So and I know a lot of people face this, and that the initial excitement lasts for a while, and then it kind of peters off. And a lot of that has also been adjustments to the app or improvements to the technology in that if they find an issue or if there's something troubleshooting, if something doesn't work, then they stop using it. And getting them to start using it again can be challenging. Did that answer your question? I felt like I went off on a tangent there. Okay, good.
Shin.
Sure. I have a question for Nonafa. For the Masked Human app, I looked through the target audience. I think it's mostly workers, which is fantastic. And whether there's been expressed interest to extend the scope of the application for observer on board or even auditors, because we always equally have concern of safety of observer and our auditors as well. So quite interested in whether that's been proposed, considered at all.
Actually, for our apps is designed for workers in the fishing fleet, but we when we design it and we we have intention to cover all form of human trafficking, so in all user. But we have to when we launch it, we want to specific in that small first. So and as I said that when we launch it, people see the potential of the app is differently. For the government, they see the potential in order to prevent trafficking for sex workers. I mean, not for sex workers, those who force into commercial sex, and also for scammer. So it depends on how you use it in the context that you want to work with, but the function is the same and all free for everyone and also worldwide, available worldwide. So many users use it and use our app is going to be, very pleased for us because we contributed so much on this and want to be in hands of many as possible, and including some observer that are in at least also.
Thank you so much.
Those are some really interesting responses, and I know one of the themes that I hear coming out is the messenger is as important as the message itself. So who you have delivering the app to, your community that you're trying to reach, can be as important as the tool and service that it provides. And so I think Courtney and Donovan, both the situations that you're in, if you have crew members who are saying, hey, here's a tool that's really great, we should all be using this, it's probably more effective than one of you guys going in and say, hey, we have this great tool you should be using. And ideally, that's kind of the situation you want to be in. The same way that kind of Facebook and other things evolved. People hear about it, and all of a sudden, everyone's using it. There was another question from the audience.
Yeah, it's just a general question, rather a comment to all three of you. And it's more a philosophical one, coming to the end of this tech conference. And I think a lot of what you all kind of provided is really a solution to traceability, sustainability, freshness, and a whole array of other things. But where I come from, Goa, India, Sri Lanka, many other parts, just looking at fish, the whole sensorial experience of buying a fish is really important. It connects you to your fishmonger. It connects you to the fisher very often. And a lot of us in that part of the world still do it, except in the cities, obviously it's changing, and I think these things would work really well. So in the light of this, and in the light of this tech development, how do you see us keeping these human side and also the sensorial elements alive? Because I think that's a really important point in connecting us to our food and to our environment in a big way.
Okay, I think that connection is very important, and I think food is, as you know, fish is caught somewhere, eaten somewhere, right? So that's a bigger context than the local context. So in those contexts, there are now tools to connect to that detail, so that kind of creates a digital connection. The direct connection used to be important in an era of trust, which we have lost, I believe. Today, it's very unsafe to buy vegetables from the road, from the markets, because we don't know what the pesticides have been used. It's extremely dangerous to buy tuna in countries that are developing, because they have formalin in them, they have a lot of chemicals in them. It is risky to buy bananas in a lot of these countries because they've been ripened with acetylene instead of ethylene. So what has happened is that we have lost the trust of our parents' generation, where you knew whom you were buying from and they had a responsibility to reciprocate that trust. So I think that era has gone, and we cannot get there, and it's going to be hard if you try.
Can I?
Yes,
ask
no,
one?
please.
Sorry, it's kind of pretty much a follow-up question to what Aaron asked as well. Is specifically to you, Courtney, is you've been working with a lot of NGOs who work at the grassroots level. They're the ones who bring in a lot of the data and all of that. But just in an entirely different kind of a tangent, do you get feedback from the ground? There's a lot of positives that the technology brings in. It's a great leveler. It creates a better level playing field across communities, primarily helping marginalized communities and all of that. But we also get feedback about how it also disrupts systems, because especially this is what I personally have heard from senior people from the fisher communities, is how the old knowledge, systems of understanding, navigating the oceans, being able to read the oceans and being able to become a better fisher and being ahead of the curve is something that doesn't have any value anymore in communities, because that technology has replaced that, right? So that's something that keeps coming repeatedly from the ground. So just wondering if you've had any such feedback from those.
Yeah, I have, and I have spent a lot of time in the field as well as talking with NGOs, and I previously worked with for an NGO. So I've heard a lot of feedback similar to this, and this is one of the key aspects of rolling this stuff out is really understanding the community that you're working with, and engaging, connecting with that community, and being sure that this is the right technology for them. I think that's something that we've heard a lot of different approaches to the same problem, which is great, because there's not going to be one app for all, and there's not going to be one solution. Different communities have different needs, and an app, it might not be the best solution for everybody. And that's why, one of the really exciting things I see is connecting these data sources, and how do we think about that as a community, understanding that we're all working towards the same goal, and we're all working with a lot of communities that have a lot of commonalities but also have a lot of uniqueness. So how do we connect all of those dots? But yes, to answer your question, I do hear that, and that's one of the reasons why there are some places where it wasn't the right place for our app, and it wasn't used there.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that. As you know from the previous presentation, when you ask fishermen whether they want their children to be fishermen, the answer is no, right? So you have countries like India, Sri Lanka, Indonesia. Everybody studies to escape fisheries or escape agriculture. I now live in Australia, and you look at Australia and you see farmers who have gone to university. They love farming, they love technology. It's a completely different dynamic. Agriculture is now a technology's playground, and it's inspiring to see the thousands of startups India has spawned out, right? So I think I see it in a reverse way. I think the only way to keep fisheries an exciting, thriving, profitable thing is to introduce technology and to get kids excited about technology, so it becomes a thriving tech industry, more exciting than the other tech industries, because the complexities are huge and the opportunities are huge.
And I think we've got time for one more question, but I think one of the points that you've all raised that I think is a really salient point, and you just very eloquently expressed, and that's that fish does not appear in the ice counter or in a cello pack magically, that there are people and a process behind that. And I think that's where technology, if we can help the public understand that there are those people and there is that process, that supply chain, behind it, that underlies it, underpins it, that's where I think technology can really help connect people, as someone suggested, with their food. And that's a really important aspect. So one last question, and I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up, but it's been wonderful to have this much discussion. Yes?
Yeah, thanks. So yes, we are tracking we're tracking the use at a household level. It's tracking in a couple different ways. So the use of the app, and then kind of more on the effect side, a lot through household surveys. So connecting data, and again working with different partners, and we're looking to build that out and build out the way that we're showing progress and showing the positive effects in terms of financial resilience and financial literacy. This is also coupled with financial literacy programs that are run by NGOs and other partners, because a lot of the communities we work in this would be meaningless to them without more training and again, from people on the ground who they trust. So yes, we're tracking it. We need to do it better. So that's one of the things that we want to build out in this next round. And sorry, what was your other question?
Who is it the woman or
Okay.
the man that's data?
Yes, that depends. A lot of women. I know we heard this in the last session too, but it depends on the country. But a lot of women are using the app, and the women who are the buyers, and we've seen this across many countries, some more than others. But so from a gender equity empowerment, women empowerment, this is also overlaps with that type of work that's going on as well, because we're seeing a lot of women using the app who are managing households and managing businesses as well.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I mean, it's been really wonderful to have all the really robust discussion among everyone in this room. And unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. I'd like you to please give a wonderful round of applause to our panelists. Thank you so much for your time, for your presentations, and your insight and sharing the valuable knowledge that you have. And like with all of our other speakers, you'll have an opportunity to talk to them more during the lunch. We are going to be providing lunch after we hold a brief closing ceremony here in a few moments. I would ask that you please remain seated here. The folks that are remaining in Nusantara 1 will be coming over here. Okay, there's been a miscommunication. Where did Chris go? Because there's some confusion over which room we are going to conclude in. Hold tight just for a second, and I'll do the can or something to keep you guys entertained while we wait. We can have you guys leave the stage now. Thank you so much again. So I hope, at least, that everyone has had a really productive experience as part of this conference. As we suggested in the opening of the event, this is something that's evolved over time, and we've developed as a way to create connections between the technology providers and the technology practitioners. And so I think, you know, this is a reflection at this event, you know, how people have come together. We've seen some new technologies, genetic technologies. We've seen an app-based, you know, freshness assessor. We've seen a lot of new things around AI that are coming down the track that are really fantastic. And I've gotten the cue that we're going to be going next door for the closing ceremony. So if I could invite everyone to please pack up your things and head next door. We're going to close the event. And thank you all for coming, and I hope that you enjoyed your time here.